if you look at the whole world, it's, a bit chaotic right now everywhere. I think it's like you can feel that as empaths, we feel that. And then, I think the universe is trying to tell us something too, right? It's time to wake up, right? It's time that we kind of get really conscious, like what you and I have been kind of talking about. And I think that's what you're trying to get us to, is like, this is the most, opportune time where we're really seeing that we need to be here and present. And luckily you and I have been doing lots of work to, I guess, arrive to this moment, to be able to ride this wave, because it's quite big. And both of us are going through some difficult times, and not difficult, I would just say challenging. It's just, it is life, right?
Welcome to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast, where conscious leaders unite to unlock their highest potential so we can change the way the game is being played. Welcome back to the Conscious Leadership Revolution podcast. We are flying solo without a guest today. It's just Tracey and I sitting in these hot seats because we realize that we haven't really done the hot seat on this new platform, right? Yeah, we've only had guests so far. I think the last one that we did, just you and I, was when we were talking about our retreat when we got back from Costa Rica in January. And here we sit in April, which I can't even believe. Obviously, I haven't integrated that yet. This fire horse energy probably being the reason for that. But we really felt called to come through today and have a discussion, just you and I, about what we've experienced since this fire horse energy hit. That was right after we spoke about our retreat in Costa Rica, I believe. The fire horse energy in terms of the Chinese New Year started in February. And Tracey, the other thing I really want to bring into this conversation today is how, the whole inspiration behind this new conscious leadership revolution platform and mission, which is we've been saying ever since you and I hopped on this mic for about a year now. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. That us intuitive, empathic souls could feel the intensity building. We kind of could intuit that things were really about to accelerate. And then the last piece I really want to work into this is like, yeah, we've been talking about how it's going to start to accelerate because of the disruption that is headed our way. And now we're in it, right? And we've been talking about that from the angle of AI and future generations coming into the workforce. But today I thought we should talk about how it's manifesting in our own leadership lanes, right? Because yeah, I don't think there's ever been a time in my 44 years where I've needed to be consciously at this helm more than this moment. And so I just want to high five you for following our intuition and all the preparation that we've been doing in our own lanes from a consciousness training standpoint. Because boy, oh boy, did we need that preparation for this moment. So the first thing I want to ask you is, yeah, what are your thoughts in terms of this energy that we're all feeling in the ethers right about now?
Yeah, and yeah, it's fast and furious. Like you said, we're already April. The time has just, I don't know if you've noticed this, but like every day I can't believe it's 10 o'clock at night every time. Like it just, the days go by so fast,
Mm-hmm.
more than ever. I don't know if it's just our schedules and so forth, but things are moving very quickly. And then we're just coming out of, April 17th, we had a new moon with like, I think it's like 8 planets sitting in Aries, and like, oh my gosh, I don't know if anybody else felt that, but it was like a very, very strong energy. It's a good energy, but it was very, very difficult. There's a lot of push and pull between
Mm-hmm.
all the planets. They all stand for, I'm not an expert, but they all have their own kind of descriptions about what they stand for. And then they were all kind of separate and opposites. So there was a lot of push pull. It was a very difficult
Mm-hmm.
energy, I felt. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of shooting us into this next chapter. It's like, one of those new moons that is the first one. It's the only one we'll have in our lifetime with this type of like, with the planets.
Constellation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you really felt that. Like I really really felt that. It was challenging. But it also has a lot of great characteristics for the future in terms of abundance, and it's a really great one to manifest on. And so uh I think like just people are kind of like, oh, it's just a lot, like like the uncertainty, and if you look at the whole world, it's a bit chaotic right now everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like you can feel that as empaths, we feel that. And then I think the universe is trying to tell us something too, right? It's time to wake up, right? It's time that we kind of get really conscious, like what you and I've been kind of talking about. And I think that's what you're trying to get us to, is like this is the most opportune time where we're really seeing that we need to be here and present. And luckily you and I have been doing lots of work to, I guess, arrive to this moment to be able to ride this wave, because it's quite big, and both of us are going through some difficult times, and not difficult, I would just say challenging. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
it is life, right? It's part of
Mm-hmm.
our journey. And I think, yeah, and we should be grateful that we've put a lot of effort and energy in that in the last couple of years, in terms of our growth, in terms of like really being working on that healing piece that we you and I have both talked about, the Costa Rica. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really prepared us for this moment that we're in right now. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's I think it's just going to be a very interesting year. I think, can't believe we're almost halfway. Like, it's crazy to think like
Mm-hmm.
here we are already, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so much has already happened, and so much
Mm-hmm.
to look forward to as well. So I'm excited. I think it's good, but I feel ready. I think, as we'll talk about that some more, but with the healing and the growth that we've done, and the more that you expand, the more resources you have to be able to stand a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, to really see the bigger picture and be able to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that you're really ready for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you kind of just have now the capacity to see what you need to see. And if I look back a few years ago, I don't know if I would have been able to actually tap in and be able to open up, to be able to react and adjust the way that I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of, I think that's all to the healing and the growth that I've been able to do over the past years, myself and you as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about the higher you climb in this ascension journey, the more the pressure builds, the higher the stakes become, right? But the other thing that I want to add to that is the more expanded your perspective also becomes in terms of your level of consciousness. A lot of people don't understand why I talk about healing so much in the context of high performance, in the context of leadership. But yeah, the fact that we have been really doubling down in terms of that aspect of our consciousness training in regards to the healing, that's what's allowing us the privilege to stay conscious and available and present to the energies that are flying at us left, right, and center right now. I honestly don't know where I would be right now if I hadn't have done all that training, right? Yeah, because when we heal and we reconcile with the heavy, denser energies from the past, that's what allows us to stay in our alignment more and more, right? In terms of that ascension journey. And so, yeah, I think last year that was my anchor word. It was all about expansion. And so I was being so deeply intentional, right, in terms of my healing work. And this year, my anchor word is alignment. And so I really, really can see now why I intuitively felt called to set those intentions as it pertains to the call right now, right? In terms of the portals of possibility that are opening up in my own lane. And the last thing I want to add to that is, yeah, it's really intense energy. You said it's really challenging. But I know the moments in my life, the through line in terms of the last 44 years has been these moments of intense challenge where I have been able to grow and therefore impact the most, right? Because all of that ability to stay present and available to feel it This is the thing that differentiates us from AI, right? Is our human capacity to feel. And that's the wisdom that we gain in those gauntlets of challenge and change, right? Is like a real expansion and depth of emotional capacity that is available to us in terms of being able to co-create consciously, right? In this way where we're actually, yeah, we have the resources from a capacity standpoint to make decisions that are going to make it count in terms of the legacy. That's the thing that I'm really noting right now is just like, yeah, my capacity to be so present and available to those choices in a values aligned way because I have that perspective in terms of how far I've come and the legacy that I really want to leave behind. So, this is where I want to go first with you. You obviously have been thrust, I want to use the word thrust, into the gauntlet of disruption because you just accepted this new role, right? That has come with all kinds of increased responsibilities and, yes, thus pressure. So I'm curious if you could share with our audience just some of what's showing up in your lane in terms of all the work that you've done, because you have done a lot to prepare for this moment too, Missy.
Hmm. Yeah, I think what I would say is that, a couple of things is I didn't, I, don't, I think when I took um, the choice to take the role, I don't think I recognized I knew there would be more pressure, but I don't think I recognized the amount. So, it was a little bit of a difference in that. Going through building an organization means you're alone for a long time. You're kind of people are, trying to figure out where they sit in the organization. They're uncertain. Um, we're not set up yet to be able to be rowing in the same direction, clear on our mission, and that's what I'm preparing right now. But for the last month and a half, I've been kind of like still trying to get things organized, but there's a pace that you have to follow and you can't just do it all overnight, right? So the loneliness of like being able to answer to these questions and be on point and manage all the responsibilities has been like more than I could have ever imagined, I guess. And I kind of feeling that. Um, and the other thing that came up for me is, going back to some of the work that I've already done around, how I feel in certain situations, how certain situations make me feel when I'm not feeling. We talk about perfectionism, like showing up and like having all the answers and knowing everything and being able to like, make everybody leave a situation or a discussion where everybody feels super comfortable. Some of these things that I'm working on are not those that happen every day. So that wave that I have to ride every day of like, I'm high, I'm low, I'm high, I'm low, has really kind of brought me back to a little bit a couple few years ago, right? Being able to manage that. So even though you think you learned how to handle that stuff, it comes back to see, those like, are you still able to handle this? And so I've been doing a lot of work going back to like understanding and going back and revisiting my perfectionism and my unrealistic expectations of everything's going to be great when I leave a discussion and everybody's going to be super on board. And so um, that's taken, some working on my part and, kind of feeling sometimes where the winds are knocked out of my sails and I have to get myself back up for my people, but for me as well, so that I can show up even better next time, right? So that has been, I would say, and like we talk about that pressure as you keep rising, which is something I've wanted and I am ready for, but I don't think I realized how much it would need, even though I've done all this work, is still required that I still work on that no matter what, because that is real. Like, as you keep going, these decisions are bigger, more significant, more visibility. They mean something really big to the company. And it's important that I can discern and be honest about where I think we need to go while keeping, the discussions, good or bad, being in my truth. And then walking away and saying, I feel good about what I did. No, maybe I didn't get all the buy-in. Maybe it wasn't a perfect, everybody wouldn't walk away feeling comfortable. But I did what I needed to, and then I need to like refine that and keep working on it. But the piece that's difficult is that pickup piece of like leaving and the discussions and feeling bad about I didn't make everybody happy, or I didn't wasn't able to express myself in the way that I wanted to, or I didn't have all the information that I needed to. That perfectionism work, I've been doing lots of that over the last few months because I feel like I said, I am alone right now. I'm kind of working through it, and I will not be alone forever, but it takes time to work these organizations to build them. And so, yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I want to have all the answers when I'm on those calls because I feel like I'm responsible for that. Right. So it's like, now thinking, how can I set myself up next time for success? Who do I need to bring? How can I organize myself a little differently? So I'm continuously tweaking and learning. But I would say that, if I hadn't done that work, I would never be here anyway, because I would have never been able to actually, feel like I could do this role. But I would say that I've had to go back and relearn some lessons and kind of like remind myself about how this work is so important so that I can keep tweaking, how I'm showing up, and also having compassion for myself when I feel like I haven't really done the discussion justice or I missed something, is like, you know what, I can do better next time. So I try to take away from that. What did I do? Can I do differently? And not stay in that space of like feeling bad about myself for too long so that I can come back up and start, addressing what I can do differently. So, I mean, it's been really tough, and but it's like for me, it's like my lessons again coming back, and I have to like relearn them again. But I'm not relearning them at the length that I had to before. It is a shorter time for me to learn them, which is awesome because I don't have to go through that whole process. But and I think they'll always be there. Like, I think those are things that for me that will always come up. They don't go away, right? We talk about that. They don't ever go away. They just subside, and you're able to cope with them better, and you're able to like understand yourself better. And then it's just about kind of like reminding myself and working through it and preparing myself differently for the next time. So it's that growth, right? It's just that path that we're on to just continuing tweaking and developing. But yeah, I would say it's been really challenging. It's kind of brought me back like a few steps back, but it's I expected that anyway, because like you say, the higher we kind of get up in terms of, importance of things that we're sharing and doing, and the pressure just kind of accelerates and it becomes really difficult. But I say to you, I chose this. I'm here for it, and it's my path. So it's not going to be perfect. I have still lots of learning opportunities for me to to take advantage of and to actually work on, and I'm looking forward to that. It's hard sometimes, but like I said, as long as I don't stay there too long on those, stay in that, kind of feeling bad area too long. I try to bring myself up with how I can change that for the next time. And it helps me kind of like, okay, this is what we're going to do next time. And it's going to be better, you know? And when I do
Mm-hmm.
have a good session and discussion, I try to take a note of that. What went well? What did I do? And also, be grateful that that happened, and try to kind of put like, a little bit of, yeah, you did good. So what did we do, and what can we do next time that we want to repeat, right? So that you can actually just perfect, again, that perfectionism, but kind of tweak and make sure that, you want to continue learning and growing and showing up in the best way. So yeah, I would say that's kind of like been like my journey for the last month and a half, 2 months. It's been tough, but it's okay. Like, it's good.
You still have a smile on your face, and that's
Yeah.
why I know that
Yeah.
this is all showing up in service to helping you integrate how far you've come. It's not that the lessons are necessarily different. I find in the ascension journey, you kind of come back to the same themes
Mhm.
over and over again, but from a higher elevation. And all of that is just an opportunity for integration,
Mhm.
right? In terms of really yeah, the ability to trust yourself, to be
Mhm.
able to navigate all of that adaptively. I feel like you just gave a master class on adaptivity and resiliency, right? Because it's not necessarily that yeah, that we're going to have to show up and figure out new lessons. It's that we're constantly getting to see how much we've actually learned about the lessons that you and I both believe we came here as Susan and Tracey to learn. And I love that you keep coming back to, and I can attest to this in our conversations where I'm checking in on you, you keep consciously acknowledging, no, I made this choice. I made this choice because, right? And then ultimately, the because is because this is my mission.
Mhm.
This is what I came here to impact. And
Yeah.
now I'm seeing I have the ability to impact it on an even greater scale. And wow, are all those lessons, all that training since the childhood curriculum that kind of informs that purpose driven path in our lives. Boy, oh boy, am I really grateful that I showed up to all of that, right? And I kept learning and I kept growing and I kept expanding my capacity.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I hear that when you're sharing everything that you just shared is like you have to keep coming back to, do I trust myself? Right? Even if it's not perfect, even if I don't have the impact that I want to have, you keep coming back to the fact that yeah, you have compassion for yourself because you're figuring it out.
Mhm.
Right? And you're doing the best that you can with the capacity you have. And that's what we say. There's no such thing as better than that.
Mhm.
But the acknowledgement of the capacity you have.
Mhm.
I think that that is like the richest point of wisdom that we gain in the ascension journey, don't you think?
Yes. Yes. And I would also say that like we talk about impact, there's a reason we choose to do these things, right? And that is bigger than anything in terms of worrying about the work I have to do, right? Because I know my end game is over here. And so if I have to do these things to get there, and I'm not taking my eye off that prize right there, which is impact, legacy, helping others, making the workplace the best place to come, feeling, giving people the experience they're looking for so that they, feel engaged and happy and excited to be at Nokia. Like that's why I do what I do. So as long as I stay on that, eye on the prize, all this work makes it worth it, right?
Hmm.
So the impact game is like what you and I talk about a lot. And I'm not doing it just for Tracey in terms of like me, my growth. Yes, it happens to be because that's my thing. That's my own journey. But the reason I'm doing it is because it's a bigger impact for our people. And that's my legacy that I have that I've been kind of staying close to and leaving people with, and as leadership, but there's work, but there's also leadership and helping people see themselves and develop and help them be their best versions of themselves, which is something we do as leaders in leadership, right? So that's a consequence and something that I personally think is super important. So as long as I have those very clear goals ahead of me, the work is like not easy, but is easier to do when I stay focused on the goal.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it's because the goal is meaningful to you
Mm-hmm.
because it's so deeply aligned with your core values.
Exactly.
And so when we see it through the lens of our core values, it doesn't matter if it's perfect.
Yeah.
It just matters that we're showing up and giving her,
Yeah.
leaving it
Yeah.
all on the ice just in terms of the capacity we have. And again, rooted in the trust, right? That you do have a lot of value to bring to your people, right? And in terms of the impact that you're having on them, even if it's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's sometimes where we get roadblocked from being able to really step into these really big moments of opportunity, these portals of possibility, we're calling them on this show consciously, right? Is like if we don't anticipate that we're going to be able to do it perfectly, then sometimes we won't even try
Yeah.
and we won't even make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a value of yours and it's deeply meaningful to you, then yeah, that's the through line, right? In terms of how you're able to continue to find your edges in your capacity.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
So I think that's so
Uh,
rich and it's so valuable for every one of our leaders out there listening, especially from the business standpoint, right? Because sometimes we have a hard time seeing how this all integrates as it pertains to our professional purpose.
right.
But all the work that you've done and that just described has not necessarily just been in the context of your work, right? And so that is a beautiful masterclass moment from Tracy in terms of all the themes we talk about on this show and why we talk about these themes in regards to our self-leadership and being consciously at the helm, because that transcends all of life.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think, like, I talk about it from a work context, but I think you can share with our audience some of the, things you're going through right now from a personal perspective, which is really around family. And again, all this healing and growth that we do isn't just for one part of our life. It actually pertains to all and can affect and support us through any piece of our business, personal, family, children, whatever that is. It really kind of supports us to be able to show up to those moments. So maybe you want to share some of the things that, you've recognized that thank goodness that you did this work, because you wouldn't be able to sustain where you are right now and be very conscious for what you need to in your life right now.
Yeah, so I think I shared it actually, didn't I, on that last one-on-one pod that we
Yeah.
did in regards to Costa Rica? I think I alluded at least to the fact that I was making very conscious decisions, especially over the last year, like we've been talking about today. And one of the really conscious decisions that I made a year ago this week, actually, funnily enough, I just strung that together was to bring my mother in to live with Brooklyn and I because she was at the end of her legacy journey. And so, yeah, I think I also shared previously last year at some point along the way that I got the call a couple years ago to really go deep, deep on my healing in regards to this oh so critical relationship with our mothers just in general, but yeah, the relationship that I've had with my mother, I felt really called. I felt a great sense of purpose to really work with those energies and transmute those energies. And I see how that shows up for me in terms of how I show up for Brooklyn, right? In terms of my capacity and the way that I'm able to show up for my daughter. And so I'm so grateful to me all those years ago for being able to show up to that, because oh my gosh, did that ever tee up a training ground for me to be able to have the capacity to show up so consciously the last year with her, like bringing her into our home, like it obviously unravels a whole bunch of other opportunities for reconciliation, right? And reconciliation just being another word for healing. And so, yeah, I think we're arriving at that moment over the last couple of weeks, and I'm really, really, really seeing why I felt that call when I did, and I'm really seeing the through line in terms of why I speak about these things so openly in the context of leadership development and training and coaching, right? Because yeah, I've really been able to find the opportunities for the resources to be able to be cultivated for me to be able to show up in the way that I want to show up in this moment as it pertains to this last chapter and us coming to the end of that last chapter. Yeah, the higher we climb, the more the pressure builds. But also, we just said, like, it's a lot of the same themes that are showing up. And so, when I was faced with this portal as an 18-year-old, when saying goodbye to my dad, I hadn't done the healing work. I hadn't even stepped into this path in and around growth or mindset or reconciliation or any of it. And so I lacked a lot of the resources that, I spent a lot of time beating myself up for. I had to do a lot of healing once he was gone, in fact, because I didn't have the capacity to be able to say the things I wanted to say or do the things that I wanted to do. And yeah, I really can see how all of that just sent me on this mission. I talk about all the time how that really was, the launch pad in terms of me getting the exposure to my life's work. It was the only way that I ever said yes to when somebody said, you might want to talk to somebody about how you're feeling, Hobson, because it was starting to show up in terms of my performance on the ice and in the classroom when I was at Princeton. And ever since that point, the last 25 years since that moment, I've been generating a lot of resources, not just with him and reconciling that relationship and what that relationship was meant to teach me. Because you heard me say a second ago, I believe our childhood is curriculum. It's the curriculum for our life. It's kind of like the blueprint, right? And we have to crack the code on all of that to figure out why we keep coming back to some of these themes. And what is the purpose to all of that in terms of what our soul came here to impact this round? And so now I'm really seeing, I'm 44, it's 25 years later, and I have that capacity that I didn't have with him, and I'm so deeply grateful because now I have a daughter who's looking at me almost at the same age I was when I lost my dad. And
Mhm.
I have this incredible capacity to be with her through this process. And she has this incredible opportunity to see her mother and how her mother leads herself through this incredibly, impactful moment in terms of my mother. And we always say the model carries the most weight, right? And so sure, I can talk to her about these things and I can try to plant seeds and resources therefore. But the biggest lessons that she's going to gain from this experience are going to be watching how I move through this. And so, a lot of people are asking me, like, you made a conscious choice, like, Brooklyn's going to see all of this, in terms of this transition with your mother. And how do you feel about that? And is she too young? And I feel proud of that, because I know what that experience informed for me. It informed this perspective that there is a shot clock. We're not here forever, and therefore we have to make it count. And
Mhm.
ever since that moment of losing my first parent, that has been the mission that I've been on. That is the mission that we're describing on this mic today, in fact is I've been hungry to keep finding those edges, right? And keep finding those opportunities for reconciliation. And so, yeah, when I really stop and get super conscious in this moment, I don't even know if I thought any of this was possible before I found consciousness training, in terms of just the conversations I've been able to have with my mother, the
Mhm.
space I've been able to hold with her these past couple of weeks. And just like my ability to bring her so much comfort and meaning and fulfillment in terms of her legacy mission, because our parents, they didn't have this luxury. This wasn't an opportunity or a portal that they got to step into necessarily. This really wasn't a thing in their generation. But oh my, have I been able to inject so many resources on her behalf that I can see are helping her so much in a way that, yeah, I just don't even want to imagine what it would have looked like if she didn't have my capacity, you know? And then I get really inspired when I think about what that's going to mean for Brooklyn because I didn't have those models, like I didn't necessarily have anybody to talk to on this level, because again, this just wasn't a luxury that our parents had, and this wasn't anything they knew to talk to us about, in fact, right? But yeah, what we're talking about on this show is the importance of being present and available to the intense energies that are coming at all of us right now. And when we are, and we have this unique human capacity to feel our way through those energies, that's where we're led by our intuition, and that's where we can create, that's where we can make new choice. And I think that is the point in terms of our legacy. It's how do we want to make it count? How do we want to make a difference based on the wisdom that we have all gained in terms of our evolution. So, whilst I wish there were a photocopier right now in some areas of my life, in terms of, yeah, like I am very much conscious and being very intentional about wanting to leave it all on the ice with my mother. And so I'm really, really showing up in that way. Um, but yeah, I think that, the reason that I use that leave it all on the ice quote is like that was what our coach would say to us in university, so that we knew at the end when we came back into the locker room, we sat in our stalls, that we made it count. And that was always where we would feel most satisfied, right? In terms of our contributions. And honestly, I can say, even though I'm a little bit run thin and depleted right now because I'm really giving her, I know even already that I'm not going to have any regrets.
Mm,
And that's what I remember integrating from my losing my dad, in those final moments with him is that he had a lot of regrets.
mm,
And I think I made a promise to my higher self that that wasn't going to be me. And so, yeah, I think this energy is intense. I think it's coming at us really fast. But please let that be a reminder as to why Tracy and I get on this mic every single week and make this case for how conscious leadership really is what we're all being called to step into because we're all being called to evolve right now. The world is changing, work is changing. Inevitably, your personal life, it's going to change. Nothing stays the same forever. And so this is our ability to really co-create with the intense energies, the disruptions, the challenges, the changes that are headed all of our way inevitably.
mhm,
So that's where I stand. I think it's like everything that has challenged me in my life. It is really showing up to me in service of my work, of my life's work. It feels very, very profound, this portal that I'm transitioning through with my mother. But yeah, I can already see so much inspiration just in terms of where that's leading me next with this mission.
mm. Mic drop. Beautiful.
So that's where we stand in April. And I can't believe it's only been 3 months since we had that conversation. I can see why we had that conversation. I can see why you and I went down to Costa Rica. I can see why we set the intentions that we did. I can see it all from this elevation of our consciousness. And I just want to thank you for
Mhm.
being my running buddy and co-pilot and co-creator and that is definitely the best part of sticking the landing on this track, wouldn't you say? It's just like when you live in the space of alignment, you really get to align with the souls that came here to do it in that way. And I'm just so grateful that I have your energy to co-create with right now and all of our people who have been reaching out and checking in on me. And oh my gosh, I just am, it's so profound to me, this work and the impact that we're having. And I'm so excited to be able to show up to our leaders and all this disruption and challenge. I mean, I really mean it. I am so inspired in terms of where this mission is going to go next.
Love it.
So, any final words for our folks?
No, I think you said it all. I think, yeah, it's fast, it's furious. And I think, if people are curious in terms of, doing the work, I think there's some previous pods that we've done around some of the modalities we talked about, right? So if they're curious about what that healing could look like, and it's in many different ways, it's really up to the individuals on how they want to take that forward. But I would encourage people to, if they're inspired by this, to really kind of get in their own lane in terms of what that healing journey could look like and where their legacy is and where they're at in terms of measuring, are they making that progress they want to in terms of being able to say, yeah, I did it when I left, in
Mhm.
terms of to have the impact I wanted. So um, I would just say that, you know, stay safe, stay in your car, stay in your lane. It's going to be fast and furious. We're going to have lots of bumps. I think it's going to be tough, but I think this is the time where it's calling us to be conscious, right? And everybody being able to kind of wake up to why we're here, I think is going to be super important. And we talk about the shift that's going to happen as well. And we're going to see that, right? So we got to be ready for it. That's what the preparation work we're doing right now.
Yeah, go check out that masterclass that Sonia and I did. We released it on
Yeah.
the pod a couple of weeks ago. We do that legacy exercise right at the end where I take them all the way up and to the right to the final moments of the shot clock in terms of how they want to feel in the rocking chair, right? How they're going to know they made it count in their legacy and their impact game. And I just think that's why we put that masterclass together, right? In terms of giving some of our favorite consciousness training tools and strategies, is because this is a drill that every single one of us needs to be running if we've never run it before. If we ran it a long time ago, I think that that is an amazing opportunity to really start getting in that consciousness training arena and starting to really, yeah, generate the resources that we're all going to need as we step into this next revolution of
Mhm.
consciousness. You can also find all kinds of opportunities to check out what we got going on at Team Elite in terms of how we're helping leaders change the way this game is being played right now through consciousness training, opportunities, coaching. You can head on over to the website, elitehighperformance.com. And please, oh, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe out the locker room doors today on your way out the locker room doors today. Obviously, we are so grateful to have you on this mission. We're just getting started in terms of this consciousness revolution, and Tracey and I are more inspired than we've ever been to really bring you those resources for your training. Thank you so much, everyone, for following along and being on this mission alongside us. We'll see you all next week.